Hello, everyone. Good evening, afternoon, depending on which culture you belong to. So, my name is Maria Alvarado, and I am an insights professional for as far as I can remember, and that's very long. That's very, very long. So, welcome to this session. This is one more of your sessions sponsored by the association I+A. Today, we need to get another sponsor, and that's ESOMAR, which is the organization I belong to. ESOMAR is the global organization of market research professionals, and that's a very interesting one for you also to know. But I will come back to that at the end. We are here prepared to talk to you about what is to have a career in market research. And you have three people here. My role is to moderate, so I will try to contain myself and not to talk too much. But I've been told by Jaime that I can talk a little bit. So I'm not going to be that moderator in the elections that that's supposed not to play a word. I will try to give them the time, but I'll probably come in at some point. But basically, I'm a professional of the function for many, many years. I started in Spain I started doing an MBA here at Infosys when IE was a much smaller place, and it's great to see how successful, how great, and how it has developed over the years. So, but that was in '85. So since then, I've been working in these functions across the world, and that's myself. I worked most of it in a company called First Craft, and then Mondelez, and I had the fortune to be the global leader of the function based in Switzerland. So that's me. And I am now teaching and learning and working with people to make companies more consumer-centric. Now, on this side, you have the people you're going to be listening most of the time. So I promise I will shut up soon, right? So you have, and I think we just by chance, but we have heard a group that has very diverse experience. On one side, we have Tony Seifo, and he will introduce himself in a minute. Tony works with Ipsos, and I need to say his job well. He's creative excellence and audience measurement service line leader in Ipsos Spain, working from Spain with many companies around the world. And on the other side, we have Carlos Crespo. He works for Diálogo, and in Diálogo, he's consumer and shopper planning manager. And he's the younger part of this group. So I was saying, we're going to have a very interesting mix of experiences. I have more than 30 years of experience in this function. They have less, as you can see. Right? So I would like you to introduce yourselves. And just to start into the topic, we are going to have a discussion today about a career, as I said. And I would like you to give us, that's the reason I gave you a flavor of my career. I would like you to give a flavor of your career. Don't extend for the next 25 minutes. This is not a job interview, right? But if you can give us a flavor.
Sure. And
the same for you, Carlos, in a second. So
all right. Okay.
You can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Maria. First of all, I would like to thanks to I+A and EA to invite me to have this session because for sure will be very, very interesting. And we looking forward to your questions after our talk. And let me say about me that I studied economics. I started working in Unilever in the marketing department. After that, I had different jobs in the marketing department, retailers or other company services. And at the moment in my professional career, I discovered the marketing research. I joined Cantar wall panel, and it was a totally different way of work. I discovered my motivation for working, that I will explain it later. And after that, I spent some time in Cantar, and then I joined Ipsos. Do you know Ipsos? So I learning every day, working with great and very brilliant people. And I never regret about that. So
thank you. Carlos. on the other side.
I love it because my career couldn't be more different.
That's
so,
the point.
So I'm the youngest. I mean, not to brag, and it's not a brag, but I'm the
It's
youngest.
not a brag.
Particularly in a sector with such a high level of seniority, it's not at all a brag, but the opposite, right? It's as you can see, it's a sector of very senior people, so much so that someone pushing 40 like myself is still considered as a young person, right? So that sends you a bit of a message of how senior the sector is. I started doing this, whatever this is, and you'll understand why I say that in a minute. 15 years ago, and what's incredible about the
grabación.
La sesión se está grabando, pero que la gente está conectada.
¿Qué pasa?
Sorry, we can you mute yourself, Teresa? Okay.
So as I was saying, you've been doing this for 15 years, and this is many things. What's been a blessing about this 15 years is that I've done a variety of things that have very little to do with each other, right? So I started on agency side, I changed to the client side. I started as a trainee at ESOMAR, and I've done qual, I've done quant, but I've also done things like innovation, design thinking, training people about this model called loss of growth, which is, mechanistic, quant as hell. So during 15 years, I've done basically everything that falls under the label market research. And I guess the takeaway of this is you can have an incredibly varied career. It's not a single profession, it's many professions under an umbrella called market research, which in reality is many disciplines. So you never stop learning and you never stop doing something different.
Fantastic. So let's get into the conversation. And we were thinking to start by, since you started, and it's interesting because he started at a point, I started at a point, he started at a different point. So since you both started and invented Carlos, what has been the biggest change you've seen in this thing we call I+A, market research, that crazy little thing called insights?
Yeah, that crazy little thing called insights. So the biggest change that I've noticed, and this of course has to do with my own personal evolution, right? But there's also been a shift in the practice of consumer insights. When I started in 2008, my clients on the client side were buyers of information. They were people who had a relative, and it's also because of the kind of profile company I was working. Mondelez wasn't like that in 2008, but many other companies were, right? Companies that bought information, someone relatively marginal within the organization that took care of sellout data, of sales data, would sometimes buy consumer research to justify certain decisions, very specific needs. And that function, I could see it from the agency side, changed very fast and turned into something else, something more like an internal consultant, something more like someone who connects very different sources of information, has a more crucial role within the organization. My clients became not buyers of information, but like active agents within the organizations that they worked at. And they were also asking from agencies more of a consultant role, a way more savvy role, not just give me information that I will present to my internal clients, and that's it, right? It's a big change. The value of the function still has a lot of headroom for growth, but the value of the function of consumer insights has grown enormously in many companies. I think that's been the biggest change.
Acábatelo, Pablo. La verdad, es que no tengo mucha más hambre, la verdad.
Let me see if I can participants.
Maybe you can make them. That's the dictatorship.
Yeah, that's a good function of Zoom, right?
Yeah, that one.
Someone.
Mute everyone.
There you go.
No, that's a very interesting point, and I will agree. I think the evolution has been phenomenal in going from people that were looking at data and buying data to become an agent of change inside the organization.
Exactly.
And that has been quite big. I have to admit that when I started in the function, I had a short time in a research company, but then I joined an American multinational. And they were already, and I'm talking about the 90s, they were already into that. They were already to that level, and I think I've seen that expanding across. But what about you, Tony? What have you seen?
I fully agree that
You have a different perspective, no?
Yes, yes.
You see many more clients, right?
sure, and it's true that what the client is expecting from us, from our research agency, if we compare maybe 20 years ago, maybe we were more perceived as data providers, no, survey providers. And now what we are asked for is to become trusted advisors. That is, people that is able to read data, connecting the dots, and tell stories. And that is totally different role, because with sometimes you are like an entertainment industry, no? That we are kind of showman that were presenting something very complex in a very simple way, in a very short time, in a very straightforward way. But it's very challenging because the profiles of our people are not always fitting this new role. That is something that we can discuss later. The other thing that changed totally our world is how fast things are happening. Let me give you an example. 15 years ago, when I started to run pre-test, you know what pre-test is, advertising pre-test? We delivered results, that is, the ad is good or bad, in 3 weeks. Now we are delivering results in a very nice dashboard in 3 hours. That's a big change. I'm the same guy. I need to tell a story that not always is simple, in a very convincing way, to support decision making in just few hours. That's a big change.
You will say the role, you will say time and the expectations of time and how that has affected also what we do. It's interesting because we were preparing for this session yesterday, and we were talking about a little bit about some of these things. And we're thinking when we talk about time and about the impact of time, I think you were both mentioning quality and what has happened. So we have seen a change in the function into the role. We have seen a change in the functioning. Everything is expected faster. Is the quality better? Do we get a better data now?
Yes, that's very interesting because it's kind of dilemma between quality and time, speed. When you are approaching this dilemma, saying this is the trade-off between the both, you are wrong. I remember some years ago, I had a client, a marketing manager, very aggressive, that was defending the 3F. You heard about the 3F? Fast, focused, and furious. And so that is a totally different mindset of decision making from what we are defending from the research part. That is something robust enough, quality of data, good technical background, and strong insight. You need time to do that, but you have no time. And that is the main challenge we are facing, not only in the agency side, but also in the client side. Because there is no time for doing things as we would like to do. Technology is helping a lot, of course, but it's not enough. AI is helping, but it's not enough. How to do it? That is the question. And it's a challenge as well for you that you are starting. How to do it? There is no way around it. We need to do it on time, here, with enough quality. That's a matter of technology, it's a matter of experience, it's a matter of collaboration. Many things, skills, we will discuss about that. But altogether, agency and client need to make happen. There is no way.
Yeah, internally, the way we tend to manage it on the client side is to making it clear to our stakeholders that for standard thing, for small business, small in the sense of not structural business questions, tactical business questions, getting agile results is a good practice. for the kinds of decisions that could shape the business or the strategy for the years to come, it's totally worth it to conduct robust, good, traditional, I'm going to say traditional without fear of saying traditional research that has been tested over decades, and we know it's solid and it works, right? So, of course, the pressure is not going to stop. It is the role on the client side of people like me to know how to explain to like senior stakeholders that certain types of information have a role and other types of information have another role, and certain processes deserve time. I might not sound very modern in this sense because we all want to say all the time, agile, agile, agile. Agile is not for everything. And a good and trusted expert within an organization will be able to persuade crucial stakeholders that not everything can be solved with agile methodologies. And agile methodologies have their role and are important too. So the question is, for what and how crucial is the business problem that you're solving?
It's interesting because you're talking about two worlds. So you're starting to talk about two worlds. You have used just now the traditional, and I have no problem to talk about traditional, which implies there's something that is modern that is probably sexy, because you're apologizing to talk about traditional. So everybody will expect now he's going to talk
Sexier
about
as in easier to sell.
the sexy thing.
Easier to sell internally.
The sexy thing is the DIY, do
Mhm.
it yourself. The sexy thing is big data, probably. The sexy thing is quick, fast,
Agile.
curious.
Nice dashboard.
Nice dashboards. So how do you see those two worlds? Because at a point I remember when this big data thing started, there was a point in which we were thinking, oh my God, it's the end of traditional data. People are not going to like to see that anymore. How do you see it now, Carlos, from your position? That
So-
balance between
Yeah.
the sexy part and the traditional part.
So for me, once again, it's a question of the role that you give to information and measuring the relevant metrics. So we live in a world in which everything is measured. I hate, by the way, starting a sentence with we live in a world, but you know what I mean. Like, it's undeniable that we measure more things now than we did before. And we have a bigger volume of data now than we did before. So the question of what kind of data is relevant and what kind of data is not to solve your specific problem becomes really crucial. And that's what makes the difference between a good market research professional and a bad market research professional. A bad market research professional will fall in love with any kind of data. The fact of playing with data is fun in of itself. And I understand it, we're data geeks, right? But what's important is to know how that information solves the problem that you have. So for me, the balance is all about what's your problem and how do you solve it? Big data is good for certain problems. Not well read, not well interpreted, not properly used big data can be a big problem in an FMCG company. Because you're looking at a certain basis of people, you're looking at a certain reality, the reality of people who already buy your products, the reality of people who are already using your service. It can be a huge amount of data that represents a tiny amount of the opportunities, the market opportunities that are out there. So big data, yeah, why not? Traditional, yeah, why not? It depends on the business question that you're asking. You said something that I love the other way when we were preparing this meeting. Fall in love with the problem and then find the right solution for that problem that you're falling in love with. Instead of falling in love with the solution, as sometimes certain data geeks can do, right? Data geeks who are amazingly intelligent, most probably way more intelligent than me, but they fall in love with the solution instead of falling in love with the problem.
I always say that.
I
Companies,
consider that stolen.
stolen. Any business should fall in love with the consumer problem and not with the product. So that's another way to look at it. They tend to fall in love with the product they sell and not with the consumer problem they solve. How do you see it from your reality of being in a research agency? Do you see this world of the more traditional research and then
Sure.
you feel attacked by the big data and all of that?
In many aspects, no? That let me go back 20 years ago. in my company, ESOS, we were afraid about the digital data revolution, no? Because of that, no? We were dealing with the sample size, the sample size, how many respondents you have, no? The bigger the sample size, the better, no? The more robust is the information. What about one provider that has not the sample, has the universe, the census, all the data? Was a kind of threat for us, no? At the time, our client number one was P&G, a large CPG company. So we were worried, and we, at higher top level, we were discussing what to do, and we should buy a digital company and so on, no? As many other companies in our industry. Okay, the main learning after 20 years is that the more data is not necessarily the better at all. Because it's about the business question, is about the how different, how heterogeneous, how different and how much variance you have with the data. Let me give you an example. For sure, during the master, you face some large data file. What did you feel when you open the file? A lot, tons of data. You feel overwhelmed, right? That's just the sensation that, wow, how we can tell a story, something with so many numbers. That's very, very difficult. Okay, so take this feeling. Do you know what is the number one client today of Ipsos? Google. Yes, Google, the number one. They have so many data that they overwhelmed. They need somebody that running surveys can tell a single story. So yes, both goals can live together, and we need to be able and capable to move from one world to another for connecting the dots and tell a single story.
Very interesting. I'm surprised because, again, at that time when all these things were starting, Google was going around saying, I know everything.
Yes, and I'm selling free of charge
Very
surveys and many things. And it's true, they have the information, but it's not easy at all to play with that. Sometimes it's the simpler, the better.
Let's move a little bit, and we have a couple of thoughts here, but I would like to move and think, how is all of these, in your perspective, affecting what the market expects from these people? So we've been talking about speed, we've been talking about big data, but you've been touching something which I think is really important, it's about the questions. It's about understanding how to ask questions rather than to answer them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about what is our perspective, what do you think are the skills that are must-have skills? And I like what you were saying the other day, is that there's the skills in the insights professional that you need to have. There's the other skills that will make you unique, different, special. So can we talk about both a little bit? Mm-hmm. So what are the things you are expecting when you hire somebody? But what are the things that will wow you?
And from a coworker too. When I'm hiring someone, but from a coworker too. There's basic mathematical literacy, of course, which sounds basic, but it's not always the case, particularly in the world of marketing. There's, the capacity to engage with stakeholders. I'm not talking about seduce or persuade, engage with stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean internal clients, managers, the people who run the business and who will very often not agree with you or start by not agreeing with you, right? And then there's a very basic sense of empathy and interpretation of data. And data is not only quant. Qual insights are data too, or raw qual is data too. Insights are something else. But it's the basic understanding of consumers as people and those dynamics. That's a basic skill to have, right? Those are basics. Do you want me to jump into the?
No,
The
that's a
extra?
good, let's get the basics here. But I think I wanted to touch on something. It's a question I'm jumping and I'm not touching a lot, but I think it is important to cover another of the tensions that we are seeing in the function, which is the difference between the value of data and the value of consumer empathy, which is something that sometimes may seem opposite. The way I see it is it has to be like the yin and the yang.
Totally.
That need to get that view of the data with a very, very strong empathy. Anyway, you touched on empathy and Paul, I couldn't resist myself. So what are the basics that you're expecting to see? What are the things that they are a showstopper if you don't have?
Yes, all the ones that mentioned Carlos are very, very important. Let me add a couple news. One that is important is to be a passionate person, passionate professional. About what? About consumer understanding. That is very, very important. Try to understand the business problem from the consumer perspective. But it's one of the most challenging things because it's not only about understanding your target, it's also about understanding yourself, how you make choices. That is very, very interesting from the human side because you are learning about your target, but at the same time you are learning about you, about your colleagues as well. And that is something that is sense need to be there when I am recruiting people. The other one is to be techie. That's very, very important. Be familiar with the different digital tools that we have, including the AI, of course. And the third thing that is very, very important is, one is the resilience, of course, this is clear, but the other one is the communication skills. Communication is the capacity to read the data and explain it in a very simple way, as simple that your CEO can understand. Because you will have a very short attention span to do it. So you need to think right and have a good speech. In English, in Spanish, whatever. You need to be able to express abstract ideas in a very short time, in a very effective way, to the right person. So this is something that you can learn during your professional life, but very quickly you can see who is better positioned to do that job. In a simple interview. So,
That's the basics, right?
that's the basics, and you can discuss about data and empathy.
What makes somebody outstanding? So if you think when you've seen somebody, that person will have a phenomenal career in this function.
Yes,
And I'm thinking about a person.
yes, it's a combination. It's a
So what is it?
combination.
What are the skills? What are the personality or character
Yeah,
traits that you've
That's
seen?
very, very interesting. People of your age, that young people that is working in ESOS and other companies, and you are working every day with them, and suddenly you realize, wow, this person is going to achieve a great career. Suddenly, a detail or a presentation or a document that you presented. Why this happens? Basically, it's a combination of two things. That normally it's because it's a smart person, but not is a smart from intellectual way. It's emotional intelligence. It's a person that can read what you are thinking just because your facial expression. This is something that is subtle, and you at the beginning you didn't realize. At least from my side, it's take some time, but after several times you say, "Wow, this person can do it." This is the first one. The second one is the ego. Have no big ego. That is very important because if you are very brilliant and you know that you are smart, you know that you are maybe better positioned than your other colleagues from your same age. It happened to me. You think that you can get very high levels in the organization, right? And this, when you have this idea, you are a border professional. This exact moment, because it's about collaboration in our industry. It's about understanding. It's about connecting. It's about making some sacrifice. It's about learning from others. Remain silent and listening to stakeholders. It's not about repeating the marketing jargon again and again because it's very sexy. It's a very important thing. It's about keeping yourself skeptical. Doubt about everything. Make the right questions. Again. If you have the right answers, make again. If the guy is not able to do it, maybe your boss, how can it to me? Go to other person. Because the question is in your mind is because it's relevant. Maybe you know exactly why, but when you got the answer, you will know why. And this will help you to be better professional.
Good. That was a speech, huh? No. With the finger. Okay.
I love it.
You can use the finger now.
I
So
am
what do you
a
think?
finger kind of person.
What do you think? What are the things that you have seen in people that make them outstanding?
Skepticism is one of them, certainly. And it's not a feature that is usually highlighted when we talk about professional success in general. Not only in the sector. And I wish we did that more, because there's like I'm going to call it corporate ideology that, wraps everything in German. And you can very easily get seduced by that. And our function is about challenging other stakeholders, challenging received wisdom, not speaking jargon, but being probably the only person in the room that speaks clearly, speaks plainly and says simple things with robust data or good understanding of consumers behind what you're saying, right? So being skeptical is probably not something that is very fashionable lately, but I love that you brought it up because I think it's essential. A combination of being skeptical and optimistic, though, not skeptical and gloomy.
That's very
not the kind of skeptical person that doesn't like anything, because that's never going to get you liked, and that's not going to make you happy. That's not going to make you feel fulfilled, right? Then another skill that is incredibly rare, and when you find it, it blows your mind, is synthesis. People who are able to express a few things in a synthetic way, and synthesis is not summary. Synthesis is connecting different sources and putting it out there in a couple sentences that basically say everything that needs to be said in a simple way. That kind of synthetic ability is very, very rare. And if you have it, or if you can develop it, because these things can be developed, it will make you stand out. I think that one for me is the most essential and rare one. I've seen it only among very few people. And then of course, a capacity to both persuade stakeholders and challenge them. That balance, which is my boss has it, and I really admire her for that. A capacity to say what needs to be said, but maintain a super good relation with the person that you're telling that hard truth to. Never backing down from what's essential and needs to be said, but also understanding that people's careers are on the line. You're telling someone something that he or she might not want to hear because it affects their career. So it's important to remain delicate, but at the same time bold in what you're advising or what you're recommending. Right? So as you can see, it's a very complete profile. Standing out in this function is not exactly easy because it requires a lot of things that are kind of exceptional. Standing out, being in the function, many people do it. But standing out, not that easy.
I think you've both mentioned, and I thank you for bringing it, and you for highlighting the skepticism thing is something I believe deeply, and I have not heard stated out loud so clearly. But I think, and it's connecting with something we've been talking about, the curiosity. I've been living inside functions for many years. I had 250 people around the globe. And I can tell you that in general, what I've been seeing, independently of culture, country of origin, or gender, age, there's something in common about the professionals in this function is there are people that are, and I don't want to be nice to you, I think, or to us. They're clever, they're bright people. They tend to see relationships between things. That is great. But they tend to be introvert. And they also tend to love to have all the data to talk. So we are people that like data. And because we like data, we are so conscious about what we don't know. We see it so much. And then you're in a meeting, and then you know this piece of big thing, and you see the 80% you don't know, and then you shut up. And I'm going to just put the other side. And then you're surrounded by marketing people or R&D people or whatever, depending on the industry, that if they know 1%, they will shout it like hell. And you know 20%, and you're very quiet because you don't know 80%. So there, because you know a lot. Because nobody in the world knows everything. And that is something that if you get that intelligence with that reasonable side of a skepticism and not trusting everything you see, together with talk and be a great storyteller, I've seen great insights people doing it. I'm thinking about a person that is probably 20 years younger than me, and I can see him now. He's about to get to leadership growth in a big organization. And I remember the day I interviewed him, and I gave him a case. And I told him, now you're going to meet the vice president of that brand for 10 seconds. Tell him.
Mhm.
And I was amazed because he was just in 10 seconds giving him with 7 words, the essence of the problem. And he has continued to be, he's an outstanding leader today. So I think those are things that in the function in this way has evolved. We have seen creating a lot of value added and a lot of great careers.
Let me add something that maybe can be useful in the future. You probably are going to attend a lot of boards or meetings with discussions about business. You will have the opportunity to open your mouth and say something. And of course will be relevant. But please keep in mind that it's not going to be relevant because you have the data. It's not because you have all the data or you are spent the last 3 weeks working on a database. It's because you have a point of view. The value is your point of view. It's your opinion. It's subjective. The rest are objective things that are supporting your point of view. But what the manager expects from you, no matter how young you are, is your point of view. So be bold enough to have a point of view, share it and discuss it, because what you can contribute to the company.
We have now been 40 minutes talking.
One more question if you want. Or
One more?
yes, I think so.
Okay, so let's wrap this up and then we open it for questions. And let's talk about there's a debate in the industry also that I've seen lately about the need for people that are really super expert in one area versus the need for people that can cover the full problem and use different tools. What's your view of that? What are you seeing?
Okay.
How do you see the evolution in that approach?
Sure. The hyper specialization or the generalist professional. I have a very clear point of view on that. That is that when the industry is a teamwork, you need to work with different profiles. You need the super specialized, and you need the people that can read the big picture, both together, working together. That is very important. Because if you have only the very specialized people, you are not going to have the story. If you have only the general people, maybe you are losing very important details. Combination is what makes you stronger and more efficient.
The both.
Both but maybe it's not in the same place, can work in different places and in the world. It's to build a community of people that are each other complementary. And that is what about, because it's not about one man. No matter how smart you are, it's better together, always, including our industry.
On the agency side, I totally agree. A mix of specialists and somewhat generalist that kind of nurture the project from different points of view, right? You need that. I just did a project where I had like this amazing guy who's really good at math, who did one of the best analysis that I've ever seen. He was not capable of telling the story. And a coworker of his, who's great at telling the story and connecting things from a narrative point of view, did a great job of selling it. So on the agency side, you do need a different types of profiles.
What about the client?
Client side, and particularly Diageo. Diageo is, without a doubt, one of the best companies to be a consumer insights person, right? And it's because the profiles that work at Diageo are very well rounded. We don't get a lot of specialized people. We get, I think, amazing generalists in the sense that they do know about many things and they're able to work with that toolbox and solve business problems and be at the center of business decisions. And maybe a specialist is necessary at a certain point, but you bring it from the agency side. I might be biased because I'm a generalist. I do consider myself a generalist, way more than a specialized person. Every time that I've been in a certain niche of research, I've gotten bored of it. I always want to connect different sources. And that's also what a business requires. Today, I've had a discussion about pricing. I've had a discussion about a social movement and how to deal with it, and how history might evolve with that social movement. I've had a discussion about a creative execution. All those things involve completely different disciplines: psychology, sociology, conjoint studies, so pricing studies, so econometrics. Only a very good generalist, not that I'm saying that I'm one, but only a very good generalist can do that job, I think.
Are we open for questions now?
Sure.
And
We
people
can
on,
continue talking. I have more and more questions, but
we
it's
start
not
2
even
minutes late, so I wanted to have people on Zoom. If you have people connecting online, any question, please write it in the chat. Let's start with any question in the room today here. A general question, a targeted question, a specialized or a generalist question.
If I understood correctly, you mentioned that you started off doing marketing and then you shifted over more to the market research part of it. I think a lot of us also that have had started careers in the past are kind of shifting now into the market research aspect. How was that shift for you? Did you feel like you needed to change your mentality a little bit? Did you feel like you kind of needed to start your career over and then go again, or how was that?
I love this question. That's a very personal one for me. It was a discovery. I started the traditional marketing career, and after moving from one job to other, or one company to other, I joined Canal. That was a very interesting project because it was launching a new product, mixing 4 different data sources. It's a very complex one. It was an intellectual challenge for me. And after working 3 or 4 years, I discovered that what made me happy in working is the curiosity. So my driver was curiosity. Was hidden for me in the past because I had some ideas about what I should do, or supposed to happen in a marketing career. But at the end of the day, was discovering new things every day and be able to share it with my clients, my colleagues. And that was my main motivation, and was maybe late, but was very, very interesting for me. And I think exactly the same many years after. Because this morning I discovered new things. I play with the numbers, I share it with my clients. and I had one. Wow, sure. And this excitement is what made me go to the job tomorrow.
One of the topics we had prepared, one of the questions we had is, do we believe in a career in market research for life? And I would say, I have had a career in market research for my life. Okay? And I'm still into this, and I hope to have many more years. I don't think that is going to be the future. So I think what you are doing is the right move. And I will encourage, and again, in managing teams, I've always encouraged to have a team that has diverse experiences. So I will hate to have a team of insights people that are all like me. Started in insights, working in insights, I have my little things here and there, but in general, but having a team of people that has marketing background, trade background, psychologists, or people that are coming from, I remember some of the best people I hired lately in my last time in Madrid were people coming from consultancy. They were brilliant. They were really, really, really good. So I think what you're doing makes a ton of sense. And I think you will probably, even where the world is going, you will probably not have a career in market research for the rest of your life, and that's fantastic. So you will go in and out. And one of the things I wanted to have discussion with these two guys is, what is the space? What is the space we are seeing? Is somebody going to come from working in market research to now working in R&D technology? Maybe not. But I've seen people coming from R&D food. Yes, I was selling chocolate and these kind of everyday things, not less sexy. But I was selling chocolate, biscuits, and all that. And we're having people coming from R&D, and they were playing an excellent role. So it makes you better. It will make you stronger if you manage it correctly.
And the skills are very
with the skepticism and all of that.
The skills are very transversal. So there are skills that you can take with you to very different positions. I think that's one of the biggest advantages that this profile in particular and this function have.
Let me add just one thing is that marketing research is mainly about framing and supporting decision-making process, right? If you have been in the decision-maker shoes, you can do better your job because you understand how difficult is decision-making, right? That's why changing the role can help you to become a better marketing researcher.
More questions?
How are your day-to-day routines in the office? Like, what do you guys do? What are your objectives? What do you do in the office day-to-day?
Today? Rising, crisis.
Today was crazy. I haven't had a normal day in a long time. Normal day, like I go to the office, I sit at the table, I look at my emails. Never happens. It never happens. So every day is like it says a lot that my days are like that about the importance of the function. Like people will come to us in the corridor and ask us questions like, what do I do with this? I have this problem. And they don't come to me with, give me the penetration data for the last 12 months. And that's not the kind of question we get. We get the kind of question that is crucial to the business. So my day is a lot of meetings, solving a lot of problems, and many of them feel fundamental. And the nature of the problems has very little to do with each other. And in part, that's because Diageo has a huge portfolio of brands. So you're operating in so many different fields and from so many different angles. And in many cases, our role is to, sorry about making it about the role again. I'll go back to what the day looks like. But in many cases, it's about reconciling the different angles that you hear. Like one brand is doing this, the other brand is doing that. And from a company point of view and a consumer point of view, you go like, why don't we harmonize this? Why are these two brands tackling the same problem? Shouldn't we be tackling this problem with this other brand? So those are the kinds of things that we face every day. So as I was saying before, started the day with a meeting about pricing, went on to discuss our creative execution. So when you discuss our creative execution, there's a humanist side of it, like, are we engaging people? Is this attractive? Will people feel reflected in the ad? All those things, but there's also technical aspects that Tony is an expert in, by the way, like what minute of the ad should the brand appear? Does the product appear for long enough? Do we get the attention of people at the right moment? How will this look in a reel of other ads? And, from there I participated in a workshop about a big category that we wanted to make even bigger and more trendier and more fashionable, with people who were coming from Greece, from Italy, people with many different profiles. We had a big discussion about PR, the role of PR in that category. So you see how the nature of the topics that you talk about is incredibly varied, and that makes your day, it's really hard to adapt to the pace because every conversation is completely different to the previous one you've had, but the day is basically crazy and fun.
I just would like to make something, you notice something, please note, he has not been talking about doing research at all. He has not been doing research or presenting research or anything like that. He's an advisor. He's taken as an advisor, and that's the reason I think we love our jobs, because it gets you there. It gets you into the problem, into the business, into the thing. And you're not doing research constantly because nobody has so much money. Anyone, even Procter.
And if you're doing research at all times on the client side, you're not doing your job well.
But
Or
he's
something
doing a
that
lot
you're
of
doing.
research.
But he would love it if we did that, but no.
From my side, this is quite challenging as well. Maybe it's not as crazy as Carlos' life, but
But you change clients. At least he's always talking about the same category.
yes. So that's the interesting thing. The challenging side is that normally we are facing different requests from our clients that can be business to business, can be tech, can be entertainment, can be today Netflix. Depends. With a business question and a request of an approach from the research side. So the challenging is to understand the business question, understand how we can deliver, how we can answer this question, with what are the right methodologies, what are the right approaches, and after that, understand what is the right approach in terms of budget and what are the right experts we need to have on board. And where are they? Sometimes are in Spain, sometimes are in Singapore or in other parts of the world. And also, not only that, it's also about how we are going to tell the client that our option is the best one, because we are competing against other agencies. So this happens in few days. It's quite intensive, it's quite challenging. And sometimes we get the approval, sometimes we lose the project, but it doesn't matter because we are learning a lot in every single project. And time to time, we have the opportunity of run the project and learn even more.
We have 3-5 minutes. I don't know. I'm becoming, obviously.
But I have a question.
Part of it.
If you want to get more, if you want to discuss with colleagues or learn from the experts, how can junior people learn from ESOMAR? How can they connect with the big association of experts and companies on the topic?
Thank you. That's a very good question. You all will be receiving 3 pages that I have here. But basically, one of them, it's interesting because it looks like an underground map. It's not. It's a real map. It's every time I try to navigate it, I'm amazed and think, wow, how many things can you do when you are in this industry, in this function? So check it. But I think the question from Jaime is a good one. ESOMAR is it's a global association, and it has an association for younger people. Tony won't be there. Me neither. You won't be. Maybe you can. And it's called the Young ESOMAR Association and Society. Yes, you will get the information about that. You can become members. I think there's some affordable fees, and you will have the opportunity to connect with a network. you will have the opportunity to get reduced fees to attend events, global events. We remember there was one of your students 2-3 years ago. She became part of ES. She joined the ESOMAR Congress. She went there and she came with a great job. She was really passionate and all of that, all of those things we have been talking about. But it's a good way to connect with a very wide global community in people that are doing what you're doing. So you will get the information, get on the site, and you will look at it.
Any more questions? Can see this.
I would like to add something that it's not a question, but just
It's a reflection.
before coming here, I had an interview with the CEO of a consulting firm, and I asked him, which are the skills you're looking for people in order to become part of your team? And he answered me, I'm looking for people that have strong but very small egos.
Yeah.
Strong in the sense of that you value yourself as someone valuable and important, and when you present something, you are sure of what you are saying, but small in the sense that you are capable of receiving feedback, because in the consulting world, I mean, clients can be very tough. So that's
You know exactly what I mean. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thank you for sharing.
Strong but small. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks a lot. A big applause to Maria, Tony, and Carmen.